Hi there, it's Mark, back with another Lightroom tutorial. Now I didn't intend this to be part of a series, but there is a theme in the past few videos that I'm going to explore further into this one. Today we're looking at editing tones within colour. So we're going to be targeting some colours to then darken or brighten or add clarity or soften, whatever it is we're going to do. The idea is, how do we target the colours in order to do that? Now, 3 videos ago, including this one, we looked at blacks, whites, shadows, highlights, and how they actually overlap. And they're kind of broad brushes and they work great for general editing, but sometimes that brush can be a bit too broad, so you needed to narrow the size of it for want of a better description, and there will be better descriptions. I'll link to that one above now. I'll also put it in the comments below. So we address that problem by looking at luminance masking, where we're able to take any tone and then build on our masks as well. Get some quite intricate masks very easily and quickly done using adding, subtracting and intersection. And that was this video, which I'll link to above now and also put in the description. But today we're squarely in the realm of tones and then editing tones. We're squarely in the realm of color and editing tones therein. If that's something you'd like to learn how to do or have a refresher on how to do it, stick around. We'll be using a variety of pictures. Well, those 3 in particular. Where's my third one? There's my third one. We'll be using those 3 pictures in particular. They're all available on my website to download, and the link as usual is down below in the notes. So I'm going to put the kettle on, play the titles, possibly not in that order. I'll see you in about 8 seconds. You go grab those pictures and we'll get some work done. Okay, so here's our first picture in Lightroom. This is on a walk through to Rydal in the Lake District earlier this year. And I've chosen this because there are a lot of greens of different shades, different tones within there. But also as a quick aside to show the new masking feature that is in Lightroom, and just for clarity, we are at Lightroom 14.4, I believe. 14.4, yes. So that mask is called landscape, and subject to what you have in your picture, it will try and divvy things up into mountains, vegetation, water, sky, and so on, but it will only display the ones that it can actually see. So here it says I found some sky, which it seems to have included the lake. It's found mountains or hills, well, 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. Vegetation, which also extends to the hills because it can see that it's green essentially, and water. So there is a way to start to target things, and I'm interested in what's on that far bank, in particular the trees. So we could start with that one and create a mask, and that has highlighted that whole area for us. And we could, for example, put clarity in and possibly bring a little bit of exposure down to compensate. And not bad, except it was global to the whole thing. We can refine, as we've seen in previous videos, with adding and subtracting and intersecting, but that's initially one way you can actually target things. Incidentally, I'll just delete this for a second. I'll show you what that mask looks like on a different picture. Let's choose this one. And now let's go for landscape and see what it divvies this up into. You should see it actually changes from saying mountains and things like that. This is Newcastle Quayside with the Millennium Bridge, the Tyne Bridge, the Sage. So now we've got sky, architecture, vegetation, water, artificial ground, i.e. concretes and pavements, and natural grounds where it sees more soil type effects. So as you can see, the landscape mask option has adapted to what's in the picture. Anyway, I digress, but I thought it was worth showing you that. Let's go back to the picture we were working on, which was this one. Alright, so what else can we do with colour? Well, in our basics panel, there's saturation, but again it's global to the entire picture. But you've also got color mixer, within which you have the newer feature of point color, which I think I've covered off in a different video. If not, possibly there's one due. But the basic mixer itself, you can look at it just as hue, and all this is doing is just keeping the panel smaller. Hue, which is I'll say the variety of the color that's in there. Saturation, which is the strength of the color within there, and luminance, which is the brightness or darkness of the color that's in there, or as I have it on all, and I can see all three panels. Whenever I use this, I rarely pick a color such as green. Let's go saturation and just do green by itself, because if I'm doing that thinking I'm targeting all this, what you and I are probably seeing as green, I'd be wrong, because the color in there is also yellow. How do I know this? Well, let's click here, which turns our cursor into this selection tool. So if I click and hold down my mouse and I move up or down, I'm on the saturation block. I'm either increasing or decreasing saturation. Up increases it, down decreases it. But look at the sliders that are changing. It is both green and yellow that is changing. In the middle of the forest here. So it is a combination. Now, I don't care what that combination is, and I can't be bothered to actually study it to work out exactly what it is when I've got tools like this. So let's say I want to change the luminance of that particular piece of grass over here. I could start fiddling with the greens, and yes, I'd get it. I'd also get it with a bit of yellow. But if I'm not sure, I can click on it and go up and down, and notice there's more yellow in that than there was green if you look at the sliders over at the right. So that's another way of targeting it, but again, it's global. Any pixels on the picture that fall under that match that's under my crosshairs gets adjusted. Let's click reset. So what else can we do? Well, we can come in to do a tone curve. Typical tone curve is used to add contrast. Essentially, most people call it the S curve, because you lower the darks are at this end and the lights are at this end, and you highlight, and in doing so you can get an S type shape, but it introduces contrast. You can do lots of things with the tone curve. However, you may notice there's also a tone curve for each color. So whereas that has just applied it to the whole picture, if I use the green channel, it only applies to the greens. Now what's this? How come we've got green at the top and magenta at the bottom? Because the way to reduce greens is to add magenta. Have you ever wondered why the tint control has got green at one end and magenta at the other? Well, I'll grab just a middle tone and start to bring it down, and you can immediately see I've imperceptible movement, but already those greens are changing. Incidentally, whenever I'm working on something over here, I will look at it to put my cursor on, but then while I'm moving this around, I don't even look here. I'm always looking at what the impact is. So blue and yellow on temperature to cool things down, to warm things up. Notice if we clicked on the blue channel, it's got blue and yellow. Blue would add blue in, look at the water. Yellow takes blue away. Ultimately it adds yellow, but initially starts to take that blue away. These are opposites, these colours. And what do you think red would be? Red is cyan. So you can add red to a picture, and if you add cyan, you're taking that red away. But again, this is global. Let's click on reset. I want to easily target these trees. So let's go back to our masks. We could go in via luminosity. You think that might be the wrong way to go? Let's go. Click on there. Let's bring the feathering down. Let's try and find the best place for that. That's doing a fair job of selecting all the trees. I'm not worried about all this rubbish at the bottom, because we know, as in previous videos, it's so easy to subtract things and add things. Let's subtract with a linear gradient, put it about there and pull it up. There you go. And let's, I don't know, subtract again with a brush and just get rid of all the shenanigans up here. There you go. That's a rough selection, and that selection will work because we're not doing fundamentally big changes here. We don't need it to be precise. It's flowing, it's nature. It's not like dead on straight lines and such. So there's my selection. Now I can come down and apply clarity and possibly bring the exposure down as well. So I'm doing similar sort of thing, but I've managed to target it much more precisely. Let's delete all those and come in via another way. So back in, this time range is color, and click in the middle of those. And again, we're in a similar situation, but let's refine the color. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that's a better and quicker than doing from Luminance point of view. And again, subtract, brush, let's get rid of this stuff we're not interested in here. And that is quite a precise selection around those trees. So what I want to do this time, I'm just going to bump up contrast itself and a bit of clarity. And possibly bring the exposure down a tiny bit. Job done. I'm not going to complete the rest of the edit. I was trying to pick something green out of something green to show that we can target it down. We can get good localized adjustments on these tools. Before and after in Lightroom is your backslash key. So by pressing your backslash key once, you go before and again after. It's a good way of just checking as you go through what your edits are doing. And I think particularly around the forest here, if you watch, I think we did a good job of bringing out more definition there. So that's basically how we use the tool. Let's go on to our next picture. Next slide, please. Right, so the first thing here is my OCD will not let me continue until I straighten this horizon. Now, I don't mind a horizon being like that. That's fine, totally fine. But being just slightly off does my head in. So let's go back into crop. Let's choose the spirit level. Let's click one side of the water to about there and let it straighten it up. And while we're on, because I prefer more letterboxy type pictures, personal preference, I'm going to bring that down to there and call that my crop. Overall, I think the picture could do with a bit more clarity. And now what I want to do is I want to target the blues that are in the water. I want them a little bit more grey. So let's do it with our range masking. Colour. Choose that. Yes, there's a lot of it, but we all know how easy we can do this. Let's see what happens if we intersect this now. So Option or Alt key to choose intersect, and I'm going to intersect it with luminance, and I'm going to click the luminance in the middle, and that has brought it down. So we're saying, okay, we want that particular brightness with that particular color there, and it's done quite a good job. I can easily get rid of the top and bottom, subtract, linear gradient, click and drag down, subtract, linear gradient, click and drift up, subtract, object, and I will click there and define my object. Aren't you going overboard with all these subtractions? Yes, I am, but I'm doing it deliberately for a reason. Let me see. There you are. Oh, didn't quite like that, so let's subtract again with brush. You're really going over the top now. I am and I'm not. What I'm showing here deliberately is that 1 mask, 2 masks, 3 masks, you can combine as many masks as you need to target what it is in your picture you want to target. And we've used a range here. We've used objects, linear gradients, color ranges. End result is I got that selection probably quicker than had I done it manually. Anyway, now that I've got it, I want to take some saturation out to make it a bit more grey. And I'm going to pile some clarity back in as well. There you go. So that was one way of doing it. Just proving you can use as many things as you like into a mask. How would I have done it myself? Well, if I didn't want to demonstrate the fact that you can use lots of masks and pile them all up, I would have probably gone straight for colour and simply would have gone subtract with a linear gradient at the top, subtract with a linear gradient at the bottom. And I wouldn't have worried too much about the side of that boat. And now I'll bring the clarity up and some of that saturation down. If that side of my boat then did annoy me at some future time, let's go back to here as if I was general editing. If I thought I actually wanted to bring the colour back in that, you can revisit masks. So let's go back into this mask. Let's now do subtract and a brush and just bring out that part. And if I do O for my overlay, you can see how I've brushed that away. Overzealous, but you've seen how I've brushed it away. The point being, you can revisit a mask. You don't have to get it all right first time. It's non-destructive. It can have multiple components. You can go back and you can delete them. So if I wanted to get rid of that particular linear gradient, which was the bottom one, I can actually delete that linear gradient. So within masks, you can come back and add more, subtract at a later date too. Very, very powerful. Our final picture is this one. And the reason why I chose this one is because we looked earlier at greens and yellows and found they're very, very common and intertwined colours in grass. So how do I approach targeting just certain yellows in this picture? Well, let's see how accurate we can be with our range, colour. That's not bad, is it? What about the dark bit here? You can see now this particular yellow has actually got a lot of the foliage in and a lot of what Ella's wearing there. But when we chose over here, it was able to target it. I'm just going to switch off my overlay with the letter O, or indeed click there. So why was that? That was because that is distinctly a brighter yellow. So it was able to choose one from the other. Whereas over here, because it's a little bit darker, it's also more present in other things. But notwithstanding that, let's click on that one. Let's not forget we've got a refine tool here. I'm going to switch my overlay back on and let's refine it and bring it down. And the more we bring it down, the more specific to, more precise to the selection. So here we can now start to pick our way around and choose to refine as we need to. Let's delete the whole thing. And now let's see if we can choose an object. I've not tried this. Object. And I want to choose the wing. No. I wonder, out of curiosity, what landscape would make of the component parts. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Sky, vegetation, water, and natural ground. Right, so that's taught me something here. Natural ground and vegetation and water. Okay, what if on our mask we created a linear gradient, dragged from the side so that it selects the whole picture, subtract landscape, sky, vegetation, water, natural ground. It's getting us more towards the plane. So that we've got Ella in here as well. So let's subtract subject. Okay, so now we've got more or less the plane. There's a bit here to tidy up, so let's get rid of that. Subtract with a brush. A little bit on a foot. A bit on the back of her hair. But there you go, we've now got that plane. Now that we've got that selected, we could actually start playing with saturations, we could start playing with hue to a greater or lesser degree, the saturations, clarity, or whatever. So I went a little bit off topic there. We ultimately ended up still selecting things, but the big takeaway for this one was we had a bit of an experiment. We went to have a look at what landscape would give us on the component parts, and we're able to see that certain of those component parts, when combined, actually started to take us to where we wanted to be in terms of a selection. And that's all I have for you. If you think this was worthwhile, please click on that subscribe button, ring that bell to be notified of future videos, and I will see you on the next one. Bye for now.